the modern technology. So now we are in the era of technology, and unless and otherwise the women they upgrade themselves to technology, it is difficult to get mainstreamed and participate. And so Periyar was talking all these, the education equality, the training on hardcore jobs, technical upgradation, etc., in the early 19th, early 20th century. So now we are facing that. So to march towards his goal, Periyar convened meetings and conferences and passed resolutions against the unscientific practices and the rule of religion and society. So with that part of minimum introduction, the Periyar feminism written by Arulmozhi goes like this. In the year 1938, the eminent women in social life of Tamil Nadu convened a women's conference at Chennai. So I told already the progressive women, the women who were involved in the self-respect movement, that was again very much conceived by Periyar. And you have a lot of aspects to be shared on self-respect movement, and that is what Ms. Arulmozhi will also be talking today. Among the resolutions for advancement of the society and improvement in the status of women, the conference lauded the contribution of one man who stood and fought against the slavery of women in all spheres of life and conferred on him the title Periyar. So I was actually sharing this earlier. So it was all the women, because already the women are enslaved, and therefore when all these ideas are coming from a man, as if the experiences of women, because in women studies we feel that it is the experiences of women that figured into the discussions, the research, the methodologies of women studies, and therefore these women felt that it is right to title him as Periyar. So and then it was continued as Periyar only. No one will say E.V. Ramasamy. Only people from other opposite party may spell out his name as E.V. Ramasamy, but it is Periyar only, whoever is the proponent of this ideology and Periyar feminism. Yes, he opposed the norms, customs, beliefs, faith, religion, and God by which, whichever name it is called, to subjugate the women and deny her due rights and dignity. He waged a war against that. So this is very important. All the norms, the customary norms, the rituals in the name of religion, etc., very backward and regressive. And he attacked on that, and he felt that it is all subjugating the women and deny her due rights. And when those beliefs claimed immunity under the umbrage of religion, he declared to be the arch enemy of religion. So that is a misunderstanding. It is time again established that he is not against the religion, he is not against God, because that is again actually going to. He is only pointing to people who are exploiting, who are discriminating in the name of God or in the name of religion. So that is the point to be conveyed, which is always mistook as if he is against God and against religion, etc. And he is against it because it is suppressing and oppressing the women, marginalizing and discriminating the entire population into the upper caste, untouchables, etc., etc. So in that perspective, he was against that. So this has to be understood proper, and this hasn't gone proper to many people. So when the priest placed the God as the shield, he gave the clarion call to form a godless society against all inequalities. So as I just said, no, so it is not religion per se, but people started discriminating in the name of religion, and that has to be done away with. That is his contention. That man was Periyar E.V. Ramasamy, popularly known as Periyar, the revolutionary leader. That is the title you should, because we wonder when we read his texts, so much as he continuously contributed to writings. He never, I don't know how he could find time to sleep, because so much revolutionary writings. It is not simply writing for the sake of writing, and was a philosopher and founder of the movement built up to demolish the dilapidated social structure and to treat the minds which were religiously infected against half of the human community. So this is in terms of both caste and gender, I should say. So there were divisions in the society, and the society has accepted the Varnashra, and he was dead against to that, treating people untouchable and keeping Sudras as not in the system of caste at all. So all these were very much discussed. And until his demise in the year 1973, he contributed the tireless fight against the inequality of women. So that is what I said. On the one hand, he was against the
We welcome you, ma'am. Arulmoli, ma'am.
she has joined. She called me.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yes,
okay,
ma'am.
okay. So we'll start formally.
Arulmoli, ma'am. Can you hear me, ma'am?
She called me and it got cut. I don't know.
She is
She's
on the
present
line,
here.
ma'am.
Ah, she's here.
Arulmoli, ma'am.
You have
Kindly
to
unmute
unmute
your.
it. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Arulmoli, ma'am. Kindly unmute your mic, ma'am.
She's not
You
able
have
to
to
hear.
click that. You have to click that mic
It
like
has come.
symbol. Yes, ma'am.
No,
Yes,
it
ma'am.
has
Yes,
come. It
ma'am.
has come. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
welcome. Yeah, now we can formally start. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Leela.
Yes, ma'am. Sure, ma'am. Sure. Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon, one and all. It gives me an immense pleasure to welcome you all for this 1 month gender sensitization and capacity building program on gender, society, economy, and polity, organized by Department of Women Studies, Bharathidasan University, Center for Women Studies, and National Service Scheme of Kaveri College for Women, and the Regional Association for Women Studies, RAS. I welcome you all. May I now request Professor N. Manimekalai, Director and Head, Dean, Faculty of Arts, Department of Women Studies, Bharathidasan University, to welcome and to introduce our today's resource person. Welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you, Neela. So welcome, Tolar Arumori. Sorry, what I was doing it, I downloaded your own article and I was presenting Periyar feminism. So instead of not making the participants wait, so just 15 minutes or so. Now I'm happy that you could. I think you are also engaged with something else. So rushing, I could see from your face, and I'm happy that you could join and welcome you on behalf of all the participants and also the organizing partners. And I have her a brief biodata and quickly read and then leave it to her to present. And I also welcome all the participants, my own colleagues from the university and also from Kaveri College, and of course Shilu is also present. Welcome, Shilu. Madam Arulmozhi is a practicing advocate in the Madras High Court for past 32 years in the field of writs, civil and family matters. And she is from Salem and had her education in a government college there in Salem, BA in English Literature and BL in Chennai from Dr. Ambedkar Law College. And orator in the school days, won more than 250 first prizes in district. So that is why still an orator. And state level oratorical competition, president's guide and NSS volunteer in school and college days, an atheist and follower of Periyar ideology. I have told enough about this earlier. And awarded Pavendra Bharathidasan State Award by Government of Tamil Nadu in the year 1990. And she's also has been a special invitee for Pavendra Bharathidasan centenary celebrations held in Malaysia and Singapore for other literary meetings, and has been also for other meetings. And a special invitee of North American Tamil Sangam's annual celebrations at Chicago in the year. And she's a social activist, columnist, and opinion maker on social issues. taking part in television discussions and in press touching issues of social importance. I think you must, if you are regular watch or listener to the TV programs, then you would certainly be listening to her occasionally, very often. And she has also been serving as a resource person for feminist workshops like the one which we have now. This is the first online program wherein we are meeting. And practicing lawyer, sorry, and I have also taken that she is the propaganda secretary of Dravidar Kazhagam and active leader and promoter of Periyar Idealist, a rationalist, attacks the irrational and scientific practices maintained by social institutions like caste, religion, etc. And she holds the view that Tali, the Mangal Sutra, is the symbol of male oppression through the medium of caste and religion. So she has contributed quite a lot on this area of Periyar feminism, and she is going to talk on Periyar feminism and the self-respect movement, which is very close to the women's studies and, of course, in general to social studies also. So welcome, Tolar Arulmoli, and over to you now. Dr. Neela.
Thank you, ma'am, for your nice introduction. May I now request Madam Arulmoli, Senior Advocate, High Court of Madras, Chennai, to take over the session. Welcome you, ma'am.
Yeah, yes, thank you, Dr. Neela. I also thank my dear Professor Dr. Manimegalai, who is the head and dean of this department, and also conducting this a tough task of a 1 month seminar. It is not easy job these days because all these speakers and resource persons are very busy rather than the normal days. They are busy with the Corona meetings now. During this time that it has been organized so nicely, and I should appreciate and congratulate Dr. Manimegalai for her the great achievement in conducting this program, and also the participants that who are spending their time and lending ears to the speakers and resource persons, and subjecting themselves to a brainstorming process. It is a good time for us to think with the topic of Periyar feminism and self-respect movement. To start with this, before going to Periyar and before going to feminism, I should start from the second phrase, self-respect. In fact, I should start from the last word, respect. I would like to ask the participants, any of you have ever heard that women deserve to be respected? There are words, meanings connected to the gender. You must have heard from your childhood, from time immemorial usage. What are those words? Identified with the gender of the fair gender. Selflessness.
Yeah, you can unmute your mic and speak, participants, if you want to respond to the question asked.
Okay, I will proceed. If anybody raises your hand, yes, if it is intimated, I will be very happy to have this dialogue instead of monologue. One is that selflessness, hardworking, sacrifice, patience, kind, loving, caring. So what not? All these words will come to use only when you speak about a female gender issue. These are the qualities identified with a woman. So, what are the qualities identified with the other gender? Courage, bravery, power,
providing protection,
yearning, protection, violence, anger, and whatnot. See, sometimes the words will sound like synonyms. Protection and caring. Here, the word protection is not for women. It's for man to protect women. And when it comes to caring, it is not for a man to care a woman. It is for a woman to care a man or the children. So, even among the words sound like synonyms, protection comes with power. Caring comes with a status of subduing nature. So, all these have been inculcated from the birth. When a child is born, it's not only born nude, it bonds with the same kind of brain, activity, and also feelings. But slowly we teach one child to be brave, to act anything in violence of discipline, and we ask the other child to be obedient and to settle everything which was unsettled by the other child. After some time, maybe few years, both children are playing together, are playing with other children on the street. The children are nearing the age of 7 or 8. Then there will be a call, there will be an alarm from inside the house, calling that one child inside the house, saying that, what is the time? How old are you? Are you not growing? Do you think you are still a child? Don't you have any responsibility? Don't you understand that you are growing? So come inside. So it's not only a mere advice, but also the tone controlling the gender. After some time, the same child goes to college. There is some strife, a kind of disturbance. This child growing girl has to encounter certain persons who are not that much disciplined, are not that much civilized. So when she encounters certain issues, she must report this to the parent. To whom she should report it first? To the parents, naturally. But that girl will choose this as the last option to report it to the parents, because immediately after reporting, the first advice from the house, which has to protect the girl, the first advice would be, better you change the route. Don't go on the same road. Okay, if there is no other road, what to do? You take leave for a few days. And then, why should you study? I think it is time for you to get married. What is that? Some rowdy element is standing on the road and is creating nuisance, not only to me but also to other women. And when I am reporting the same to you to take action, that you are advising me to stop my education. Is that the purpose of my reporting? Then slowly she will be advised to report it to the college. Then the college will give her different kind of advice. Then if the girl goes to police station, the police will say, see, this is the problem with the women. See, why you all coming out? Better you stay home. Or once you have come out, you should be ready to face all these things. Is it not that women are facing every day, and especially the girls coming to college from suburban areas or from villages? It is a day-to-day affair for them. Either it happens to them or they hear from their friends or to some other student. Why all this happened to a woman? So I stop here. I give you a pause here. Because if I go to marriage, and that is the second portion. What happens to a woman until here is, we as a society have a psychology. This psyche is not a new creation. This psyche has become hardened by centuries of teaching. Centuries, maybe millenniums. What has been taught to us? You are born as a woman because of your sins in the previous birth. I think almost all these societies have some reasons to reduce the status of women and to tell her, you remember, you are not equal to a man. It was taught by the languages, taught by the cultures, taught by the religions, and strengthened with the stories of religious productions. It has been repeatedly pronounced, declared, announced, warned, implemented, whatever be it, it has been given to us as a gift along with the gender. Whether it is a gift or punishment is the question. So, it's not corollary to the gender. It has been created. What is the outcome? You just consider until this age, and due to these ideas, what do you get as the outcome? Is the constant strong feeling that I am inferior by birth. So, a person who is inferior by birth can claim any right on par with the other gender who by birth is superior. Once you accept somebody is superior and somebody is inferior, there is no space to claim equality. When there is no equality, then what remains is treating you as a subordinate, treating you as a servant, treating you as a slave. So the inferior will be treated as a subject. This is what happening to the female gender in any other names, and we are undergoing the same. So if that has to be corrected, this woman should be taught, she should be reminded that you are not inferior nor superior. You are born as equal as a male child. So you also deserve to be respected as an individual. You have this right to claim. You must be respected. Do we consider that we can claim respect from the family? No. You just think about all your languages, where a wife is calling a husband. What are the slangs or the words that she is using? And how a husband calls the wife. In Tamil, we call or we feel that calling a wife as Vanga, Ponga, then there will be a nickname to the husband that he is henpecked, because he is calling his wife with respect. How do you expect a man to call his wife Vanga Ponga? If anybody speaks Telugu, they can see that if a man calls his wife, Yemandi ikkada randi, idi teeskondi, then they will laugh in Telugu. Others, they will laugh in Telugu, because he must call her ikkada rave pove. It is common for all languages except English, where there is a common usage of she, he and you. But English has got its own problems. That is a different subject. So in this Indian culture, what we call as Indian culture, even though the languages are different, this idea of the male domination is common. In this Indian society, a movement came in 1925 with the name Self-Respect Movement. Then people would easily consider it. Self-respect means that it must be for men. It's a movement for movement and of by men. It was not so. This self-respect movement declared its policy to attain equality, to provide equal opportunities to men and women on an equal footing. Then people started wondering, how can you treat them equal? Because they are inferior, no. Then do you mean, see, the immediate question would be, if you say that a man and woman are equal, in those days Indian society, and especially in the South India, or you have it as Tamil Nadu, the immediate question would be, then do you mean that the wife will tie Mangal Sutra to the husband? Ambla pombla samona enna pombla thali kattuvala amblaki? Ambla thani thali kattano. Then what does it mean? Then what Manu said, a woman should be a submissive person. She should subject to the dictate of her father when she was a child, and she should subject to the dictates of the husband when she is married, and she should obey the son at her old age. Nastri can be liberated. No, this is in Sanskrit. They say that no woman is entitled to claim freedom. She can never be allowed to be free, because she has to be protected by the father, husband and son. So in this society, if you need to give education to women, the immediate fear would be, no, then she would love somebody, she will run away, she will marry of her own choice. And those were the days when the women were given in marriage at the age of 9 and 10. And after the death of the husband, their heads were shaved and they were asked to wear white saris, and they were prohibited from coming outside, and nobody should see them, and their existence should not be visible to others. You should hide yourself. If you can go to exile yourself, that would be better. So in those days, Periyar came out from Congress movement. He was an ardent follower of Gandhi. He was in Congress. He was fighting. He was following the freedom struggle until 1925. What made him to come out from Congress was that he made a proposal. It was in 1920s. The British government announced that all the posts in Indian administration, there will be more representation for Indians. But those days, who came to occupy the post? Mostly they belong to one community or few communities. And it was mostly dominated by one community. So, Periyar raised a question in the Congress that we must pass a resolution that when these jobs are given to Indians, then the administration should be inclusive of all representation from all communities. All communities should be given their equal share in forming the government, in occupying the government post. In those days, Congress was not willing to accommodate his request. They said, no, that will segregate the society. Periyar said, no, the society was already segregated by caste, by other means, by religions. So, to unite them, you should treat them equal and you should have an inclusive setup. Since that was not accepted by the Congress, he came out from the party and started this self-respect movement. When it started a self-respect movement, then immediately the question arises, for whom he raised voice to be inclusive and representative. Was it only for the men from all communities? No. It was for women also. To achieve this, how will we bring women to this? How will they come for participation? How will they fight? How the competence will be developed? Only by giving them education, allowing them to have a free movement and considering their rights equal to a male child. Treat them as a legal heir. Treat them as a legal heir. So these rights were considered to be so rebellious in 1925. Then there were questions, there were objections. Periyar faced everything, and that was the moment started preaching, conducting conferences, conducting protests, seeking rights for women. So a new era started in 1925, and in 1929 a conference by name Self-Respect Conference was convened. In that conference, there were resolutions passed for women. One was claiming 50% of all seats in education and employment should be reserved for women. Wherever the institution is occupied, the institution was meant for female children. Mostly the nursery teachers should be 100% women. And in property, women should be treated as a co-person. And the women must have the right to choose the life partner for marriage. And once married, the woman must have the right to divorce. Once married, she need not subject herself to the ordeals and hardships throughout the life if the life doesn't go right. She must have the right to divorce. And above all, she must be given the right to remarry. You just think all these resolutions were passed in 1929. Then Periyar introduced a marriage called self-respect marriage. Will anybody think what is self-respect in a marriage? Marriage itself means making a woman an unwritten slave to one man. Why do they conduct marriage for a man? He must be given three-time meal, prepared so hygienically, prepared with so that much sincerity, and he should have sex with a woman who subjects herself unconditionally, submits herself, who will not object, who has no voice or no choice. So a man must eat, a man must have sex, a man must need a housekeeper. To provide all these comforts to him by one instrument is that by marriage. And this one person by name wife will do all the services. And still she will claim, I am just living for 3 square meal. And if I object this, my God, then I have no space at all. So after doing all this work and service, she will think herself as a slave. That was the condition for marriage. She was given as a Kanniga Dana. Kanniga Dana. She was given as a gift, free gift. Once she has been given, donated, gifted, then the person who has given the gift has no right. The person who takes it as a gift will treat her anyway like he feels. So this authority, this sanction was challenged and changed by Periyar by introducing the self-respect marriage. According to the system of self-respect marriage as introduced by Periyar, he meant it for 3 reasons. One is that there is no priestly community by birth needs to perform the marriage. There is no right for anybody by birth to conduct the ceremonies for others. So that right by birth and superiority claimed was refused, rejected. Anybody can solemnize the marriage. Number 2, it can be solemnized in your mother tongue. Whatever be your language, yes, you can perform it in your language. There is no necessity for a special Deva Bhashas. If it is not your mother tongue, you don't need to solemnize the marriage in Sanskrit. You can perform it in your own language. 3, see, 1 is the self-respect of the community. 2 is the self-respect of the marriage. 3 is the last but not the least is the self-respect of the woman, of the bride. She is not being given as a gift. It is made as a contract where the bride and the groom declares in the marriage that I treat you as my friend. We take equal responsibility in our fortunes and losses. Whatever rights you expect from me, I have equal right to expect from you. Our expectation should be common and mutual. Only on these conditions, I exchange this garland with you. This is the exact declaration pronounced in a self-respect marriage. Definitely, we cannot imagine that this had happened in 1929, 1930. And in fact, it is the history that Periyar organized these marriages at his own expenses and conducted as a function of his family. And those marriages were between 2 different communities, extremely different, where in other sense people would not have accepted. So by claiming self-respect to women, he had just shaken the status quo of the society. claimed self-respect to the entire community, not to treat anybody inferior. So once a woman attains self-respect, she will see to that others are respected. Once a woman is educated, she will see to that the persons who are all around her will be educated. Once a woman started yearning, she will take care of everyone. That leadership quality of the woman has been exploited, utilized, manipulated by the society, and she was still made to feel, I have no power, I cannot earn my own, I am not equal, I need somebody's protection. See, this is the treatment demolishing the moral of a person. So, this society with its pseudo values made the women of such power to feel so inferior. It was that time this self-respect movement of Periyar started talking about women, the right of a woman to eat the food she likes, wear the dress which is convenient for her, to decide whether she can give birth to the child or not, to have her name as the initial, to be the guardian of the child, to take decisions of her life. What more you want to be a person, to respect yourself and to be respected by others. This was the basics of the self-respect movement. So, with this introduction, my young friends should go through the history, should search for these, for the historical events that had happened from 1925, which had led to a great march of the women development in Tamil Nadu, where we see the women to the maximum level of judges in the high courts. Doctors, professors, scientists. I am taking this high court judges list. You please study, you take it as a project. Just compare with a list of judges in all the states in India. You try to find out in any high court whether there are 3 women judges sitting as their lordships. No. But it is only in Tamil Nadu. Once the high court had 10 women judges at the same time. Reaching to the stage of a high court judge is not easy. Then you must have that much of numbers of lawyers with seniority, with quality, and that much of students studying law. When women started outnumbering men by their educational talents, and when they come to practice, fighting with the forefront in the family, fighting with the social structure, they are coming up, and there were 10 judges at the time, and now not less than 7 judges in the Madras High Court. So these are all examples, and though the seeds were sown in 1925 with the starting of self-respect movement. So friends, I would like to conclude with that. If you have any questions, I am ready to answer. Thank you. Sorry for the delay of around 15 minutes before I get connected. Therefore, but I cannot take extension of time. Anyhow, I am willing to answer if there are any questions. Thank you. Thank you once again.
Thank you, ma'am.
Madam,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Madam, very happy to listen to your impromptu speech.
Thank you.
Very
Thank
nice
you.
of you. I am Dr. Bibu Potting from Mysore. I read something about Tantai Periyar,
Yes.
and I like 4 important aspects he insisted. One is about wedding scheme, where there should be no dowry and remarriage should be there, child marriage should not be there. It's very important. With regard to gender parity, he also said that equal education opportunities, 50% job opportunities, and also in
Yes.
the discussion, he has given many decisions which have to be followed, worthy of following. Another one is the remarriage. Everything is okay. People in Karnataka or elsewhere, they accept all these points, but I don't understand why Periyar are used to hate God and Hinduism. One thing. And what I expect from you with regard to the chartal rights of women. I could not properly understand the chartal rights of women. Please clarify me. Thank you.
Sir, what is that your second question regarding?
Chartal rights. CHATTEL. Maybe the property rights for with the men, where the not only movable property and immovable property both should be given to the women. I think.
Okay. Yes. Yeah.
CHATTEL. Chattel.
Yes. I got it. Regarding the property rights, I would like to go to your first question. Yes, all these reformations, why it has been accepted. The reformations were accepted, but Periyar also was preaching atheism. He was a non-believer, and of course he opposed God and religion because he found that and he considered that all these inequalities
Disconnected, Neela?
Maybe link is broken.
Madam. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. She will join again, ma'am.
Yeah. So idea of bringing this discussion here is to make participants understand, or at least come to be aware of the Periyar contributions in every state. Such progressive persons must have been there as feminist scholars, and Periyar is the one who contributed really to whatever development we enjoy here in Tamil Nadu. Is because of Periyar. Of course, other followers later continued, but that is the kind of influence that Periyar did. And later on, his own disciples, be it Anna or Kalinger, they also followed the suit, and we could get the sanctions still happening. And as Madam rightly pointed out, the women could be in higher positions. That is because of his contributions. But unfortunately, this has not been realized. That is one gray area that we have to really always present and make it heard by everyone. So if she joins, otherwise, has she joined? No. Neela,
No,
can
ma'am.
you just call, and otherwise we can close.
Yes, ma'am. I will call her.
It is also time, no? That is why I think she is not able to. 3:30, and I have. If you the participants here, Shubha, you are there, and if you want to say a few points, please, or anybody else who is present here can come and make some observations about this, and yeah.
Can I add to this?
Yeah, Shobha Shinde. Yeah. Please.
See, Periyar's work against caste and for women's education is the same kind of work. Can you hear me?
Hello, madam. Sorry. I got disconnected. I think my answer was not here. Is it?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
You can continue now.
I'll make it short. See, first Periyar opposed God and religion because all these inequalities were justified in the name of God. So the reply was two-folded. A strong believer would say, no, God would not have created inequality. Whereas an atheist would say, if these inequalities were created by so-called God, I don't believe that there is no God, and I will preach the same. Therefore, Periyar, when opposing to this unequal system, then his opponents came, no, man, this is not new thing. It is not made by men. It is God made. It is there for millennium. You cannot challenge this. Then Periyar declared that there is no God at all. Come on, you and I will discuss. I say it is man-made. or if it is made by God, I am opposing the God. This is the basis of his atheist ideology. Number 2, regarding property rights, Periyar advocated equal rights even in ancestral properties. That's what the crux of your question. But initially, that I think the women in Indian communities who have secured at least minimum rights from Hindu Marriage Act, the right to marriage, divorce, and remarriage, should thank Dr. Ambedkar for proposing these amendments and bringing a code, marriage code, and that was formed into Hindu Marriage Act, Adoptions Act, which gives rights to a woman to adopt and also the right to property. In that, property rights came in 1956 for all India. Women was entitled to the share from her father's share. If the grandfather has 1 acre of land and his son has 2 sons, so grandfather, 1 son and 2 grandsons, the property will be divided by 3. Father 1 share, 2 sons their shares. If there are 2 daughters, these 2 daughters and these 2 sons, so 4 can claim right in the 1/3 share of the father. So this was the right the women got in 1956. But thereafter, in 1989, when it was in DMK regime in Tamil Nadu, a great amendment was brought into the property laws by including women as a co-partner. Therefore, now there are 2 daughters and 2 sons for a father. The ancestral property will not be divided into 3. It will be divided into 5 shares. This is the status of the property rights of Hindu women after 1989. And it came to effect from March 1989, because before that they would have done so much given in marriage. So after 1989 March, women are entitled to claim equal rights in the ancestral property. That is the status.
Both movable and immovable property?
Yes, sir. Everything.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you. But it came into effect from March 1989.
Thank you.
Women got married after that can claim.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Ma'am, what about the unmarried daughter? Whether she can claim the right in the property in Tamil Nadu?
Yes. See, if a woman married after 1989 March can claim, a daughter who is unmarried has more rights than that.
Okay.
Yeah, yes, she can.
One more question, like as you beautifully presented about the Pariyar moment.
Yeah,
so my question is relating to like any other form of a marriage, because as we talk about the Hindu Marriage Act, because the Hindu Marriage Act recognized 2 forms of the marriages. So is there any other form of marriage recognized in the Tamil Nadu which is influenced by the Pariyar moment?
No, this is the only marriage, because it covers everything. But there is a difference. This amendment was included in Hindu Marriage Act. This is included as capital A of Section 7.
Section 7. Okay, Surya Mathai.
Yeah, Suya Maryadai marriage. Suya Maryadai. Suya Maryadai marriage. This was Section 7A. Why it was included?
That is in English self-respect.
Yes, self-respect. Yeah. And why it was included in Hindu marriages has got a special reason, because the other 2 things in Christian marriages, there is no the birthright priority to perform solemnize the marriage, and Christian marriage was also treated as a contract. Also, this Muslim marriages, there is no this birth discrimination for performing the marriage. But only in the Hindu society, there was this discrimination. Therefore, the solemnization can be by anybody, and also there is no necessity for performing other rituals like Saptabadi and other things. Therefore, this amendment was specifically brought into Hindu Marriage Act. But I think this is the time for us to make a claim to include it in the Special Marriage Act also. I think it should be recognized in Special Marriage Act. And this is the only form of marriage accepted in Tamil Nadu as other than the religious marriages.
Ma'am, one more question, because when I teach family law in the class, because I'm a law teacher.
Yeah.
So the question, because usually the student, they used to ask this question, because Section 7A is applicable only to the members of the to the bride and the bridegroom belong to Tamil Nadu. In
Yes.
case if one party is settled in, for example, Mumbai, Delhi, somewhere else in the country, so whether they can perform marriage under Section 7A.
Yes, if one person hails from Tamil Nadu and other person from other states, yes, it is
marriage can be
valid.
performed.
Yeah,
Okay.
it is valid.
Okay. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm so happy that you are a law teacher.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Participants, any other question?
Shobha was asking a question, and Jennifer also. Yeah.
Madam, madam.
Vanakkam.
I am Brinda, madam.
Yeah, thank you. Tell me, ask me.
Madam, very, very fantastic session you have explained. One query, madam, as an advocate,
Yes.
we you know, all of us know we are half of the sky, but
Yes.
still now 33% reservation, madam. Why can't we fought for 50% reservation?
Yeah, definitely. But a 50% reservation in all posts, we should start claim for that.
Yeah, madam.
It is, yes. We will make a resolution from this seminar also. We will
No,
start
madam,
that.
we have to create awareness and make resolutions
Sure,
from all.
sure.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, we
You
will
have to start. Somebody has to start, so it can be started here.
Yes, I appreciate that. I support it. I second your proposal. We will form it as a resolution here. Thank you.
And I'm asking this question for many of our resource persons who belongs to our WEC, madam, because as a WEC coordinator, I want to make a role and make many people awareness through your guidance, because advocates have the first step in this, because you know each and every law regarding to this, then we have all of us.
Yes, definitely we will make a claim, and we should also propose this to the lawyers, women lawyers body to make the claim. And in fact, the movement which I belong to is Dravidar Kazhagam, which was formed by Periyar, and we passed this resolution in almost all our conferences that all government places, all employment should give 50% to women, and we will take it further. Thank you.
Yes, madam. Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Hi, madam. This is
Yes.
This is Jennifer, ma'am.
Yeah.
From Madurai Kamaraj University. I would like to ask an opinion about my observation, ma'am. You also would have felt like people have more, caste conscious, and they develop. They take so much pride in the fact that they belong to this particular community, or even animosity and hatred also based on religion also has increased in recent times, especially among youngsters. What could be the reason for this, ma'am?
It is
so much of education and all that stuff.
I'm so happy that this question has come here. That the younger generation of India has been misguided with an internal agenda, a hidden agenda, to segregate them into more hatred feelings. Each one feels that my community is superior. I am so superior. And once you get into the community feeling, then there is some subclasses. And in every family, it becomes male dominated, male oriented. And this man feels that the women in that community is under his control. Whoever it is. A girl going to college, and also it comes with religious superiority also. A girl goes to college, she talks to somebody, and the boys from that community, they around them and ask them, what, you belong to my community, you are talking to that man. Therefore, the woman becomes a property of the community. And there is a claim of declaring war. And the murders, the brutal murders, which is not only highly inhuman, which shows the symptoms of uncivilized society. Uncivilized society. See, we have been growing for 2000 years to reach a stage, and now they are taking us back, and it is not natural. It is not. If you are taken further, if they elevate you to a global humanity, then that is development. If you are pulling back, if they are taking their children, taking the youngsters back, then that means they have a hidden agenda. They want to destroy your education. They want to destroy your improvements. The youngsters are falling in the trap without knowing the danger, what they are undergoing. So it is for us to make them understand, to debrief these toxic elements which are being injected into their brains. It is a right time. We should start discussions, and we should take them. We should help them to get de-addicted. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
There are some questions in the chat box, ma'am.
Okay.
Shall I read the questions, ma'am?
Yes, please.
Okay, ma'am. This is a question by Shruti, ma'am.
Yeah.
Regarding right to adoption for women, which Periyar spoke for. Can a married woman adopt a child without NOC of her husband? Is not a married woman's adoption right? Is dependent on her husband's choice.
See, when an adoption is questioned, both, even a married man cannot adopt without the consent of the wife. When the couple goes to any adoption center, they ask for the consent of the wife also. A married woman, in fact, there are some interesting cases. It was reported in 1868 Moore's Indian Appeal. If anybody wants to check, please make a note of it. 1968 Moore's Indian Appeal, volume 12. It has got a case reported, Madurai collector versus Muthuramalingam. It was regarding an adoption taken somewhere in 1860s, when the zamindar of the Ramanathapuram Zameen passed away. There were disputes between the family members, and this Muthuramalingam was adopted by the widow of the late Zameen. The widow's name was Parvadavartini. The question in dispute was whether a widow can adopt a son when the husband did not give any mandate to her before his death. So, unless a man gives mandate to the wife to adopt somebody after his death, she cannot adopt. Therefore, the adoption was not acceptable as per Hindu law, and hence the Zameen will be declared as no heir. What was the policy that they can enclose? The British government will enclose the Zameen with their power. So when this case was discussed, the case was decided by the royal court, saying that no, the adoption was valid. You will be interested. It is very interesting point to know on what the discussion and what basis the judgment was given by the Privy Council. Is that there was one argument. They said this Hindu law based on Smritis belong to Aryan school of law. The Ramanathapuram Zameen and the people in South India were governed by Dravida school of law. It was unwritten law, but it has been in practice. Therefore, according to this Dravida school of law, even a widow woman can adopt a son without the mandate of the husband, and only she should get the consent of the co-partners. That's all. This argument was accepted by the Privy Council, and Muthuramalingam adoption was declared as valid. That's how the Ramanathapuram Zameen was protected. So, even from this argument, we can get that Dravida school of law has permitted women. And now the Hindu Adoption Act, after it was introduced by Dr. Ambedkar, that has given the right to women. But this consent has not been changed. And of course, that has got a meaning also, because if you are not separated, if the woman is living with her husband, how can she or he adopt without the consent of the spouse? That is a valid point for consideration. If the other party doesn't accept, then we can separate and get adoption. That is the condition for that. So I think we should analyze it more.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you,
think,
ma'am.
yeah.
Thank you.
There is another one question, ma'am.
Yeah, I will try
Question
to
by
be short.
Sobha Zinde, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. So many legislations are made, but they are not adopted in reality. Law remains only on paper. What do you think, ma'am?
More women should come forward to fight for their rights. Of course, it is not easy. From police station to court, they will ask, what more you want? Please adjust with your brothers. Please adjust with your father. Please don't trouble your son. These advices you will be always getting. But unless and until some women stick on to their rights and fight till the end and bring it for execution, the acts will not come into force. Therefore, it is for us to take it and fight it.
Thank you, ma'am.
We can close, Nila.
Please.
Yeah, yes. Somebody is asking.
Yes, ma'am. I just wanted to add something to it, this property thing, ma'am. Like women tend to feel guilty of asking property from their fathers too.
Yes, yes, dear.
Yeah.
Our women feel guilty for eating a fresh food. Nalla samachi, nalla saapradhike we feel guilty. We feel guilty of taking any health nutrition. If you want to take some health drink, and if it is 300 rupees a bottle, you will feel guilty of drinking that also. But you won't feel guilty of getting 600 rupees for a husband or for the child. But we will feel guilty of giving a minimum comfort to our own body. Then what about property?
Yeah.
We must
So practical.
Yes.
Every woman in this group will agree to this.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. Shall we wind up the session, ma'am?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Miss Leela.
Thank you very much, madam.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much, ma'am, for your motivational talk about Periyar feminism, self-respect movement. I would like to thank today's eminent resource person, Madam Arulmoli, Senior Advocate, High Court of Madras, Chennai, for enlightened session on Periyar feminism. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am. The pleasure is mine in thanking our dynamic Madam Principal, Dr. Mrs. V. Sujata, for her continuous support and encouragement to conduct the program successfully. I take this opportunity to thank Professor N. Manimegalai, Dean Faculty of Arts, Director and Head, Department of Women's Studies, Balidas University, Dr. N. Murugeshwari, Professor, Department of Women's Studies, Balidas University, Dr. S. Shubha, Assistant Professor, Department of Women's Studies, Balidas University, for their continuous support and encouragement. Finally, I register my sincere thanks to all the participants of this 1 month program. Thank you all. Meet you all tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you. I'll record.
पण तुला नक्कीच हा गेम जिंकला पण तुला काहीतरी सरप्राईज मिळणार माझ्याकडनं. अरे वा, थँक्यू. शोचं नाव धमाल आहे त्यामुळे एक धमाल गाणं